Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist here at CTC, and I want to introduce you today to the Import and Link Manager from the BIM Manager Suite. So let's quickly talk about the main topic here. Revit has an okay tool for managing linked files. It's a pretty passable tool. They could be easier to use, but they work. The big problem here is that they're in Revit natively. There is nothing available to really discover imports that exist. They make their way into our design models all the time, and there's really no way to manage them unless you can discover them manually or unless you have some kind of an add-in. The Import Link Manager is the tool that handles both of these at the same time. It makes managing your links a bit easier, and it makes finding and correcting imports a whole heck of a lot easier. So we're going to take a look here today at how you can use this. In fact, we're going to cover four major things. We're going to show you how you can get access to the Import Link Manager once it's installed into your Revit environment. I'm going to walk you through the interface. We'll take a look at a sample project model I have and discover some of the imported and linked files and do some correction on them. And I'm also going to share with you how you can get your hands on the suite if you don't already have it installed. Since I'm not big on death by PowerPoint, let's jump straight into Revit and do a live discussion here straight away. So I have my sample office building that I use fairly regularly on demos opened up right now. You can use any model you'd like. The tool that I'm using here is in the CTC BIM Manager Suite, which you can find from the CTC Software tab here at the top. So this BIM Manager Suite right here, when I pull this back up on the ribbon, is all the tools in blue. And as per usual, the light colored tools are free tools and the darker colored icons are paid tools. So this Import and Link Manager is a licensed tool. You will have to have a license of BIM Manager Suite after your trial expires to continue using it. But this Import and Link Manager, when I click on it, it'll quickly scan my model and find all of the imported and linked things in here. This will be CAD files, Revit files, anything that's linked, anything that's imported, all things will exist inside this Import and Link Manager that we can kind of manage and work with. Now we can isolate some of these if we need to here at the top. And if you have many of them, you probably would want to use that. I tend to have fewer than about 10 to 12 imports or links in my models. I keep on top of that as best I can. Of course, I work in fairly small office buildings most of the time. But still, nonetheless, you can find these things very easily. You'll see I have a list of some DWGs that are in my project, and I've got some numbered Revit models here. That's usually how Revit identifies instances, is by numbering them. And I can tell if they're Revit links. If I go over here to the right, I'll see the path to the actual Revit project file. But those are my Revit links in this case. I don't think this model has any images in it. It doesn't have any IFC models linked into it, things like that. So all I have right now are Revit and DWGs. With this, if I look through the insertion method, all Revit models will be linked. If they're imported, they're no longer considered an import. They turn into a group. So all Revit models will be linked. But CAD files, they can be either a link or an import, as you'll see here. You can see also which work set these happen to be on. Any DWGs or images on a specific view work set, well, you can tell what view they're a part of already, and what work set, I guess that would be. Anything that has an explicit user-created work set here, like interior or Revit link electrical, these types of things are user-created work sets, so those are model links. You can also see sort of a type over here as well, the fact that it's a DWG or a CAD link or a Revit link or whatever. Another nice thing to note is the pinned status of these. I can see their pinned status very easily, as well as where the original source file came from and some other stuff that might be meaningful over here to the far right. Now, with this info, oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but I've modified my interface a little bit. I went into the options here and I turned off a few columns that I didn't feel I needed. The host view column was a bit redundant for me because it's almost the same stuff as work set. So I got rid of that one. The referencing sheet I don't use. The sheet number I didn't care about. Unless it was linked directly or imported directly onto a sheet, I don't really care. So I ignored these two. If I noticed one that didn't have a view work set, well, actually it would have a sheet work set at that point. So I would know what the sheet was that it was on anyway. So I turn those off just to save myself a little bit of space. I like things a little more spread out. So let's talk about managing this a bit. First things first, I'm going to look at my Revit links down here, and I notice that one of these is on the interior work set. And if I look over here to the right, the file name for this is AS18 with my project number and the kind of project name right there. AS for me stands for architectural site. This is my site model where I'm doing a lot of my sidewalk modeling and sort of site shots, some of the entourage parking, things like that. And I'm noticing this is on the interior work set, which is incorrect. So I'm going to fix that right from here. Now, normally after I discover something like this, I have to go find all of the instances of this, track them down. In this case, there should only be one. But track them down and change both the type work set for the definition of that link and change the instance work set as well, because there's two work sets for imports, well, for links at least. Imports only have one. But this right here, this interior work set, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to change the work set to the site work set where it belongs. It probably should be called Revit link underscore site to match the rest of my naming convention, but at least it's on the right work set here. I'm also noticing that none of my Revit links here are pinned, and they all really should be. So I'm going to go ahead and pin all of them. I don't have to, again, go track down the actual instances of these in my model anywhere. I can see their pinned status of each instance right from here, and I can modify that straight away. So the work sets I can modify, the pinned status I can modify, assuming they're in the right place, of course. If they're not, well, then people can unpin them and move them and hopefully repin them. Now let's tackle the bigger issue up here, the DWGs. This is the stuff that normally Revit doesn't give up its secrets on. And if I sort these by name, something that I typically will end up doing, I'm noticing that my base model lower level here is actually inserted or imported 3 times. And if I look over here as to the work set this happens to be on, I'm noticing that one of those is on the existing floor plan. That's probably fine, but it should be a link. The other ones down here, these are working views made by somebody in my office. I can see their initials there. I won't call them out, but I got working views here, and it looks like they probably took this floor plan and did a duplicate with detailing to duplicate for these guys, these existing working views. Well, frankly, I don't like the fact that these are imports in there and that they're duplicated with detailing. I'm going to clean this up right away by simply removing those from my project. Once again, I'm not going to go track them down. I'm just going to remove them straight away. If the people complain about it, well, it's a working view. They can go reduplicate that if they need to. And I'm going to fix this one right here. This one import, I'm going to swap this and reload it from a correct location. So swap and reload from. This swap reload from, I'm simply going to browse basically to the exact same path this was at before. Well, actually, it's not the exact same path. I've moved it since then. But I'm going to go ahead and repath this. I'm going to go to my demo folder where I store these things in my CAD files. And I'm going to find that base model lower level right here and just open this up. And what it's going to do is open up an import link CAD dialog box where I can change the properties that were detected from the previous insertion. I'm going to change it to a link. I'm going to leave its placement where it was. I'm going to leave the colors how they were. Everything's going to stay how it was, but I'm just going to change this out for a link, and it'll basically reinsert that. Now, if it can, it'll try to maintain some visibility graphics. Often it can't just because of how Revit stores the information. But this has effectively now become a link, and thankfully it's already pinned in place. Now, the rest of these here, if I wanted to pin all the rest of these DWGs or these other 2, I could simply just set them to pinned as well. And then what it'll do is go track them down and pin them. In this case, they're on the interior work set. None of these CAD links should be on the interior work set. If they're a model-based link, if they're not linked to a view, that is, they should be on the work set of CAD link, right? So I can go ahead and swap that out as well very quickly. All of this management done very simply from one interface makes this process as a BIM manager of going through and cleaning up a project very simple. All right, you might want to know how you can get the BIM Manager Suite to try this for yourself. So you can get Import Link Manager or any of the other BIM Manager tools there. The way that you do that is you go to our website, to ctcsoftware.com right here. You go to the products page, products, BIM Manager Suite 2020 specifically, And this will get you the ability to try the BIM Manager Suite free for 14 days. And when you install this, it will automatically install on all 4 of the latest versions of Revit, 2017 through 2020, with that one download and install. And when you decide to buy it, then you can certainly go through the exercise of licensing it. It'll just stay on your ribbon. You don't have to reinstall anything. It's nice and easy for you and your BIM managers to work with that. If you want to know more about pricing, you can look that up here as well, both network and standalone pricing. But yeah, this tool set is real easily accessible for you. Just ctcsoftware.com, go to Products, BIM Manager Suite, and you'll be able to gain access to that trial. Once again, thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in a future CTC webinar. Have a great day.